Ladies and gentlemen, we are live right here in the beautiful Buckhead community of the A, the T, and the L. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Ramonepreston Show. If you're coming on, joining us live, do me a quick favor, hit that like button, hit that share button, and tag Lolly Dolly everybody and let them know your boy, Ramonepreston, my squad. We are live right here in the beautiful Buckhead community of Atlanta. This is the day that the Lord has made. We already rejoicing. We're glad in it. My hope and expectation is that you're having an amazing day so far. If for some reason you ain't, we getting ready to change that because my day is going absolutely positively amazing. Again, welcome to the Ramonepreston Show. I am your host, Ramonepreston. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how you can master the holding company. This is something that you want to become a master on. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, how to master the holding company. Again, I need you to hit that like button. I need you to hit that share button. And I need you to tag somebody, Lolly Dolly, everybody, and let them know the Ramonepreston Show is live right here in the beautiful Buckhead community of Atlanta. And we are ready to give you the game. Before I get started, a few things I want to cover. Number one, please be sure when we're going live to comment, to give us feedback. It's just important to the algorithms on these platforms. I'm telling you, like these companies, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Meta, LinkedIn, TikTok, all these platforms that we stream our show on, these platforms, they built in a way that you gotta participate. So when I'm live, I'm just asking you, or when you coming back around watching the replay, please do me and my team and our community a favor. Just put something in the comments. Let me know what city you're watching from. That helps. When I make a point that stands out to you, you should be taking notes and writing it down, but also just put it in the comments. Drop hashtag in the comments, Millionaire Blueprint, hashtag Millionaire Blueprint. Put in the comments, hashtag Millionaire Blueprint. That's our signature educational program. We want to get this program into the hands of at least 10,000 people this year, and I want your help. I want your support, especially if you are a member of our community. If you are already on the Millionaire Blueprint, you getting trained and educated, you learning things about principles and concepts and practices like the holding company, you have a responsibility to give that to somebody else. Like one of my mentors, he always says, like when you learn something and you figure out how to do it, at that point you are responsible to share it with somebody else. That's a powerful principle to live by. When you learn something and you figure it out, you're responsible to share it with somebody else. So I appreciate you for joining me on the show. I appreciate your support. I appreciate all of you that pray for us and continue to push this movement. But I want you to understand something. My team and I, we have a goal this year to get this Millionaire Blueprint, our signature program, into the hands of at least 10,000 people. We have a mentorship program as well that's connected to the Millionaire Blueprint that, of course, we want people to be in that program, but just to get the education, just to get your mind wrapped around these business and financial wealth building concepts and principles. It's a game changer for me. It's changed the trajectory of my family. Like everything that my family will experience moving forward into the next several generations, it's all because of this information that I share with you on this show and the information that I share in our educational program. So I want to say thank you. If you are already a member of our Millionaire Blueprint, our Millionaire Mentorship Program, if you're a licensee, if you're in our ecosystem, even in our ministry programs, I want to say thank you for trusting my team and I to help you and to work with you. So again, let me just officially say welcome to the Ramonepreston Show. If you don't know, now you know. My name is Ramonepreston. I'm the host of the Ramonepreston Show, and every Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time, I come on this show live to give you the game, to share valuable information with you that I know is, if you use it, it's going to help you start, structure, and scale any business, any ministry, any income stream, and any wealth building dream. So let's get started today. I'm going to be talking to you about how to master the holding company. Like, how do you master the holding company? So you already know when we start using words like master, we talking about taking that thing to the next level. See, a lot of people are hearing about holding companies. A lot of people have a little bit of information about holding companies, but very few people take their understanding and their education and their training about holding companies to mastery levels, meaning that they are utilizing this entity structure in such a way that they're getting all the benefits that they possibly can from it. So I'm gonna begin by first and foremost saying, in order for you to master the holding company, in order for you to master this thing called the holding company, which we understand from a legal perspective is an entity structure, but in order for you to even master this thing called the holding company, you have to wrap your mind around the concept. You got to wrap your mind around the concept, the principles, and the practices of a holding company. So if you're taking notes, write that down. If you're taking notes, write that down, baby boy. Write that down, bruh. Write that down, sis. If you want to become a master of the holding company, if you want to take your understanding of a holding company to mastery levels, it's going to begin by you first and foremost wrapping your mind around the concepts, I could say concepts, the principles, and the practices of this thing called a holding company. So what do you mean I need to wrap my mind around the concepts? Well, what are concepts? Concepts are views. Concepts are perspectives. So when you think about a concept, you need to think about views. So there are certain views you have to have when it comes to business. Let me give you an example how this plays out in your regular life. If you do not understand the concept of a holding company, but you want to go get into business, you want to be an entrepreneur, most likely the first thing you're going to go do is you're going to either just do a DBA, you're going to do a sole proprietorship, or maybe you'll start an LLC. But more than likely, if you start an LLC or S Corp or a company or an entity, you're going to start it as an operating entity. You're not going to start a holding company. Why? Because your views about business are not centered around that concept. So you're not going to utilize a certain concept when you don't understand it. So for you to wrap your mind around the concept of a holding company, it means that you have to start viewing business from the perspective of your understanding of a holding company. Because every time you do business, you're going to do business from that perspective. You're going to view business from that perspective. So for me, because I can consider myself a master at the concepts, the principles, and the practices of a holding company. Number one, because I teach it, I live it, and I've built my organizational enterprise around it. And I have helped, at this point, probably hundreds of people do the same thing. I know I have personally sat down in front of a computer and I have started more holding companies than I can count. As a matter of fact, I've started companies and entities even before it was a big thing to do it online. I remember when you had to like mail the paperwork in and wait to get the paperwork back. So this is a whole nother level of what I'm talking about. But because I understand the concepts, the views of a holding company, anytime I think about doing something in business or anytime I have a business idea, I'm automatically coming from that perspective. because I've wrapped my mind around the concepts. So once you start learning the concepts and start understanding business from the perspective of a holding company, all the ins and outs that it entails, what starts happening is you start developing certain principles. So what is the difference between a principle and a concept? Well, principles are essentially consistent truths. So all of a sudden, everything that you do, everything that you think, every time you get ready to put a plan together, a strategy together, every time you start mapping out what your next move is, you map it out based on principles or consistent truths that have shaped your mind. This is still about the holding company. So if somebody comes to me with a business idea and they say, well, I think I want to start a business, and, I'm thinking about selling shoes, or I'm thinking about starting a clothing line, or I'm thinking about, selling hoodies, or I'm thinking about, offering my services as a home health aide, or as a specialist in certain area, whatever the thing is that somebody coming to me doing, I'm automatically thinking, okay, if you want to provide this product or this service to the marketplace, I would ideally start a holding company and then that operating entity, because I have a certain view about business. And because I have certain principles and consistent truths that I live by, I'm going to tell that person, you may want to start out with two entities if it demands two entities, depending upon what that operation that you want to do in terms of selling your products or providing a service, because I understand these things when it comes to a holding company. And then your concepts and principles develops practices. These are the day-to-day activities that you participate in when it comes to business. And you start building this infrastructure that allows you at some point to not just work in a business, but you will be working on a business because you have built an organizational enterprise. So the foundation of this conversation, this discussion, this show today, this lesson that I'm giving to you, the foundation is built on you understanding if you're going to become a master at the holding company, if you're going to take your understanding of this thing to the next level, you got to start learning this thing and wrapping your mind around the concepts, the principles, and the practices. So many people that I talk to, especially people who just reach out to me, which, by the way, I ain't got no problem if you just want me and my company to file and form your paperwork for your holding company, file and form your paperwork for your operating entity. We can do all of that. We have a corporate services department. All right. We provide corporate services, meaning that all you have to do is go to Ramonepreston.com/LLC. Ramonepreston.com/LLC. Say it again. All you have to do is go to Ramonepreston.com/LLC, and that will be our corporate services page. All you would have to do is fill that information form out, specify which entity type that you want us to start for you in any state, and we will start that LLC for you. We will file and form the paperwork. We will get your EIN number. We will draft your operating agreement. We will get your certificate of good standing. We will obtain your articles of organization. We will categorize your LLC correctly as a holding company. We will make sure that language is in your operating agreement. If you need a corporate kit, we can get your corporate kit. If you need registered agent services year-round, we can provide that for you. Why am I bringing that up? Number one, because I want to give you a service. But I'm bringing it up in light of today's show is because if you just want me or somebody to file and form the paperwork and do that part, that's fine. The problem is once you get your paperwork, once you get everything done, if you don't understand the concept, the principles, and the practices that are centered around the holding company, all you're going to have is good ideas on paper. and a whole lot of paperwork. You're going to have EINs, you're going to have articles of organization, you're going to have operating agreements, you're going to have bank accounts, you're going to have corporate kits, you're going to have 3-ring binders, you're going to have certificates and all this stuff, but you ain't going to know what to do with that entity structure because you have not learned the concepts, the principles, and the practices of a holding company. If I'm correct, I want you to let me know what I'm saying is correct to you and you understand what I'm saying to you. Put that in the comments. Let me know in the comments if what I'm saying to you is resonating and making sense to you. Please put in the comments, bruh, you own it. I don't care how you say it. Just let me know what I'm saying to you is making sense. Okay? So if you want to become a master at the holding company, meaning that you want to be able to build an organization or enterprise that you can wake up and proudly run and lead and grow and expand like you're supposed to, I'm telling you that you're going to have to educate yourself on these concepts, on these principles, so that you can start putting them to practice. And so at some point, you're going to have to come back around to somebody like me and get the education. Or you could just Google your way to get that education. But most people that I talk to who reach out to me and say, I need that holding company course, or I need your millionaire blueprint so I can learn all the ins and outs of this. Most of these people have browsed the internet and have gotten as much information as they can. But even though I have a lot of information on my social media pages about the holding company, it's only so much information you're going to gather in pieces and make it make sense. At some point, you got to have some consolidated lesson plan, some consolidated educational structure so that you can learn line upon line, precept upon precept about this particular subject matter. If I am correct, please let your boy know. And while we're live, if you have any questions, feel free to drop your questions in the comments. Put your questions in the comments and let me know what your questions are. So now let's get into some of the meat. Let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of mastering the holding company. So we've established a foundation for what we have to do in order to even begin the process of mastering the holding company. So now the next part of this conversation is, how do I actually master the holding company? Like once I start learning and educating myself and training and developing, like what is the mastery level? Like what is considered to be the mastery level? Well, the first part of your mastery, is the part that you are going to play, or the role that you're going to play as the CEO. So there's a role, there's a part that you're playing in this mastery of holding companies that is centered around you as the CEO. So if I had to kind of like just give you the top 2 areas of mastery when it comes to leading a holding company, it would be you mastering the holding company through your part or your role as a CEO and through your part and role as the asset manager. Now, again, all of this information that I'm sharing with you, the good thing is, if you figure it all out while you're watching a live show, then good for you. Take it and run with it. If you can't figure it all out and you need more information, because I'm only giving you incremental pieces of information, I only have a certain amount of time. But if you know that this is important to you because you want to be able to grow and expand your organizational enterprise the way someone who has a holding company would and does, then these are going to be like the 2 main areas that you want to become a master in, because this is going to have a lot to do with what direction your holding company and your organizational enterprise goes. So if you are here, this is you, and you have a holding company here, and you want to build this enterprise that's made up of divisions, that's made up of subsidiaries, and that has multiple layers of assets like trademarks. We'll just put abbreviations here. Trademarks, intellectual properties, ownership interests of other businesses, real estate. You could have stocks, bonds, S&Bs. You can have crypto for all I care. You can have crypto. What else can you own? You can own equipment. You can own vehicles. It can be a plethora of things that you own, right? And you want all of these things to actually exist or coexist within the ecosystem of this enterprise that you're building. What I'm saying to you is all of these things and how they work, how they flow, how efficient they operate, and the success and the results and the expansion of them. What I'm saying is all of this is dependent upon how you operate as the CEO and as the asset manager of these things. Am I making sense to you? So in order for you to become the CEO, in order for you to become the asset manager, what are you going to have to do? Oh, Ramon, guess what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to educate myself. See, this is why I keep telling y'all, you ain't going to be able to get around education. I don't care what you feel about that. And if you're one of those people because you watch people on the internet, you know people are scammers, or maybe you got scammed before, somebody sold you a dream, and once you got access to their programs and their content, it was garbage. You got to get past that. We all have been scammed at some point. We all have bought into something that it wasn't what it was. Okay, so be it. You got to move on. At a certain point, you got to make the decision. If there's a certain area of life or business or financial wealth that you want to achieve, at some point, you ain't going to just be doing it on your own. Okay? Like, you might be a person like I am that you can learn a lot by yourself. You can self-educate. But even me, I reached a certain point financially. I reached a certain point professionally that I had to accept the fact that, bruh, my ego is getting in the way of me being able to get further down that road. So I was able to build an organizational enterprise and get it as far as I could. And I had to reach a point that I realized if I want to grow, if I want to expand, if I want to get further down that business, professional, financial road, I have to deploy my money and my resources and my time and my energy and employ the education and the information of other people who have already succeeded. So again, if your goal is to be this person, you want to stand at the mountaintop of this conglomerate, this organizational enterprise. Everybody wants to be that person. Everybody wants to be at the top of that mountain. Everybody wants to wake up and just go to the other side of the world or be sitting on an island because they got this amazing organizational enterprise built. Well, guess what? You got to build it. And if this is you and this is who you want to be and this is the position you want to assume, you have to have your holding company, your divisions, your subsidiaries, and all of these things are just housing trademarks, intellectual property, that's information, things that you've put together. This whole ecosystem houses ownership interests of other businesses. It may house real estate, stocks and bonds, cryptocurrency, equipment, vehicles, copyrights. All of this stuff is within this, right? Well, first of all, you're not even going to know how to separate all this if you have not been educated. Can we all agree on that? If you ain't been educated on this, how you going to separate it? Do you know right now what exactly that you know that's considered to be intellectual property? Do you have something that is markable? Do you have ownership interests in other businesses? Or do you have a holding company that has ownership interests in other businesses. Maybe you have 3 or 4 businesses that you personally own that you need to restructure so that your holding company can own it and you own the holding company. All right? And if these are the things that you want to do, what I'm telling you is the success of all these things is going to be dependent upon you knowing your role as the CEO and as the asset manager. And when I say the CEO, I'm talking about being the CEO of a holding company, not just an operating company, not just the average LLC, which, by the way, most people who are considered the CEOs of a general operating business, most of them don't even know what they're doing as the CEO because they hadn't been educated. And their ego and their pride is in the way because they're not willing to accept that they need education and training and accountability and support. So they say stay stuck. All right. So what I'm going to do just for a few minutes is I'm going to talk about the role of the CEO of a holding company. I don't know if I'm going to have time to talk about the role of the asset manager. All I'm saying to you is if this is you or if this is who you want to be, and these are the things that you want to have under your organizational enterprise, you have to figure out how can you become the master of this thing through being an amazing, masterful CEO and being an amazing, masterful asset manager. I guarantee you, the average person who has an LLC, even if their LLC is filed and formed like a holding company, the average person doesn't even know their role as an asset manager. They might not even see themselves as an asset manager because they might be thinking, well, I don't have a hedge fund. I don't have a syndication. I don't have a crowd fund. So why would I be considered an asset manager? This is because you don't know. This is because you have not educated and developed yourself to understand the concepts and the principles and the practices for a holding company. I hope I'm making sense to you. So today, I'm going to just take a few minutes and talk to you about that part, just the CEO, because that's how you're going to become a master. You're going to master the holding company through those 2 primary roles, the role of the CEO and the role of the asset manager. So let's look at the CEO. Like, what is the role of a CEO? CEO of a holding company. Now, of course, the details of the role of a CEO in a holding company or of a holding company, of course, the details are similar to that of any other entity. But there are some differences. There are some variances because you're not just running an operating business, or you ain't just running 2 or 3 businesses that you personally own. You're running a conglomerate. You're running an organizational enterprise. Okay? So there's a difference between a CEO who owns one business here, one business here they own business number 3. They own business number 4. They own business number 5. There's a difference between you as the CEO of all 5 of these businesses. There's a difference. Now, let me take the same 5 businesses and show you a different way to look at it. You're the CEO here of business number 1, and business number 1 owns 4 different businesses. You see that? I can't draw a lick. But I'm just showing you, if you just look at both of these structures and you look at CEO of business 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you got to be the CEO of these 5 businesses. And you look at this diagram and you're the CEO of business 1, but you in business 1 are actually assuming the role of asset manager of business number 2, 3, 4, and 5. That looks different. And if you really be honest with yourself, this looks easier and it looks less confusing. It's more efficient. It's so many benefits of having this. It's so many things that when you see it this way, visually, it resonates with you. And a lot of you that have business set structures like this, you probably feel like you all over the place. You probably confused. You probably overwhelmed. You probably don't know if you're coming or going. You just sick of it. You overwhelmed with paperwork. You trying to get QuickBooks accounts. And I'm not saying some of this stuff don't still apply to this, but the efficiency and the ease of it is different. Am I making sense? And so if you want to master this, the first point of mastery is you understanding your role as the CEO of this and the asset manager, but I ain't even gonna be talking about that today. I ain't gonna talk about that today. And I got a whole program that I teach on this. I got a whole program with tons of content, videos, tutorials, documents, forms, training modules to show you how do you not only put this together, but how do you actually master it and run it successfully. Well, one way you're going to run it successfully is understanding your role as a CEO of it. So listen to this. As a CEO of a holding company, your primary role is to provide executive oversight. Your role is to provide support. Your role is to set risk management parameters. Your role is to innovate, to cast vision. Your role is to consolidate all operations. Your role is also to put people, platforms, and processes in the right place to align with the corporate strategy of the enterprise. See, just this information alone, I know is so much for you. I ain't even gonna have time to get into all the details. So if you're just coming on or you've been tracking me for the last couple minutes, before I bring this show to a close, this lesson to a close, let me come back to the beginning, all right? So we're talking about mastering the holding company. I'm explaining to you that in order for you to become a master of a holding company, you must first learn and educate and train and develop the ability to wrap your mind around the concepts, the principles, and the practices of this entity structure called the holding company. So there's a learning curve like any concept. There's a learning curve like any principle. There's a learning curve and a practice that has to happen on a day-to-day basis for you to really get used to how this thing works, okay? But once you start learning these concepts and these principles and these practices, now you have to begin to prepare yourself to run this type of structure, not this type of structure, because your goal is not to personally own 20 different entities. Your goal is to own one entity, and your one entity owns multiple entities so that it can look like this. And when you put this type of structure together, now you're going to take all of those assets that I listed earlier, the assets of trademarks and copyrights and intellectual property and ownership interests and real estate and vehicles and equipment and all these things, stocks, bonds, crypto, whatever these things are that you are using as assets. You want to know how to take those things and build them into this infrastructure so that you can continue to expand your organizational enterprise. In order for you to do that on a mastery level, you're going to do it, number one, as a CEO of this holding company infrastructure, but also as an asset manager. So when you create this type of structure, you can't just see yourself as a typical CEO, but you also have to be able to see yourself as an asset manager. Do you get what I'm saying? So we're just talking about you as the CEO of a holding company today. So if you're going to be a CEO of a holding company, look at some of the primary roles that you have. You got to provide executive oversight, not just executive oversight of the products and services of this company, company number 2, right? But you're providing executive oversight to this entire organizational enterprise that has intellectual property, trademarks, IP, all these things, businesses, real estate. There are a lot of things that you have to provide executive oversight to. And when new ideas come, you got to be able to look at that new idea and say, okay, how do we take this new idea and integrate it into this ecosystem so that it will fit and flow perfectly? This is what a CEO of a holding company does. And when the new idea comes, is this new idea a physical product, a digital product, a service? Does this become an intellectual property asset? Is it a trademark? Is it tied to a piece of real estate? Does it need to be licensed? Does it need to be owned by this entity and licensed to this entity? All these things have to be taken into consideration as the CEO. That's what you're doing, providing executive oversight. You got to provide support, meaning that most of the times when you're a small business owner, like most of us are when we first get started, you're providing support to all these different entities that you're running and to the divisions that might be here in the middle. You providing support to all that because you ain't got 30 people working for you. You doing a lot of this stuff. One of the greatest compliments I ever got as a CEO of my organizational enterprise was just this past Saturday. One of the young ladies that came to our private event Saturday, she just joined our mentorship program. It was my first time meeting her in person, and we talked for a few minutes at the end, and she gave me one of the greatest compliments I could have ever gotten as a CEO. She said, I honestly thought you had way more employees than you have. She said, because your company feels like it's so huge because of all the moving parts and all the things that y'all do and all the things that you have going on and all the touch points. And she was like, it's unbelievable. She was like, I am so impressed with you and your staff and how y'all make this company feel like it's like 30 or 40 people that work. She said, I thought y'all had like tons of employees. Well, because I understand some things that some people who might have 3 or 4 or 5 businesses don't understand. And you should be understanding that, especially if you know you have dreams and desires. So the CEO of a holding company also has to provide risk management parameters. You have to set them. So now you got to make sure that this whole ecosystem is working. I was having a conversation with one of my licensees, someone who's licensed to sell our programs and products, and we have certified them as business coaches and consultants. But we was having a little conversation the other day, and I was talking to them about, yes, when you have all these different divisions and subsidiaries, it's your job to basically set risk management parameters because you got to make sure everything is at least leading to generating revenue. You can't have a division or an idea or something that started out as an asset sitting and it becomes a liability, because you have to make sure that you are on top of the risk management parameters. This is a part of asset management and being a real CEO of a holding company. All right. CEO of a holding company, you also have a role to innovate. You innovate, you cast vision. So you're not just innovating and casting vision for a product for one of your subsidiaries, but you innovating and casting a vision on maybe mergers and acquisitions. How can you merge and partner? How can you acquire new companies that may have 2 or 3 components that could fit perfectly into your ecosystem, is easily integrated? This high level thinking only comes with high level education, okay? The CEO of a holding company also consolidates all operations. So you got to make this work. You can't be mad because you hire a virtual assistant and they can't figure out this thing. You mad at them, or you hire a real assistant, or you go to Fiverr and you're trying to explain to them how to put a marketing campaign together, or digital, a digital flyer or brochure together, but they don't understand how you have your structure set up. It's your job to consolidate all operations. And here's the truth. You could go to CPAs and attorneys and other experts in certain spaces with this type of infrastructure, and they might be confused. They might not know all the details of your operations, but it's your job to consolidate them. And last but not least, as the CEO, it's your role to put people, platforms, and processes in place. So you have to have the right people in place. Even if you don't have other people but you got to have several versions of yourself. I always tell my students and my clients that you got to be the CEO, the CSO, the CMO, the CFO, and the COO, and OOOO all at the same time until you can put the right people in place. But while you're waiting to get the right people, you can at least put the right platforms and the right processes in place. That's on you. Is it going to be hard? You doggone right it's going to be hard. Is it going to be a challenge? Absolutely it's going to be a challenge. Do you feel stressed out? Are you going to get overwhelmed? Do you feel depressed? Do you want to give up sometimes? All of the above. But if you know you have a dream and a desire and aspirations and ambitions to take you and your family and your business and maybe your church and your community and the greater people in your life to the next level, you got to be willing to lean in. But back to the basics, it's all going to start with education. I am by default an educator at heart. I can educate in my sleep, because that's what I do. That's who I am. That's what has made me who I am today, because I have self-educated myself to where I am. And once I got to a certain point in my self-education that I realized I needed to deploy my resources, my money, my time and energy to employ other people's information and education, I did so, and I blanketed that on top of what I choose to do for myself every day. And I'm continuing to grow and expand and do what I'm doing right now. And you got to be able to do the same thing. So I want to challenge you today. If you know this is supposed to be the way your business is set up, if you know your future depends on you figuring out these things that might feel complicated and overwhelming today, if you know that you have the dreams and the desires and aspirations and ambitions and maybe the ideas and the ingenuity to have products and services and these things that could generate millions and millions of dollars and change lives, maybe the missing link is you just consolidating your education and saying, let me just take a shot at what this gentleman is saying with regard to me learning this so that I can be a real legitimate CEO. Because I got to a point in my life, I didn't want to just hustle every day. I got to a point in my life, I didn't just want to be an entrepreneur out there taking risk and making exchanges for money. I got to a point to where I wanted to build a real business, and I wanted my business to be an indestructible organizational enterprise. And the way I was able to do it and continue to do it is through this entire concept, set of principles and practices for the holding company. So I would love to give you access to my entire holding company program. And you can get access to that entire program for $97. That's how low I'm offering it, because I truly believe that within the next 3 years, the studies are showing the number of millionaires are going to double. And a lot of those millionaires are going to be people who have put themselves in position to build the right infrastructures, to have the right product lineup, offers, services, and they've probably digitized it because they understood people, platforms, and processes. So I want to get you in now, and all you have to do is either text the word millionaire to me, Of course, you can just click the link that you see in the description of this video. If you click that link, it's going to take you to my university training platform. You can see the entire program of my Millionaire Blueprint. You could see the holding company program inside of that Millionaire Blueprint. You can preview the modules to see all of the information that you're actually going to learn. It's a whole lot of information that you're going to learn, right? It's full of videos, training lessons. It's full of documents, forms, everything you need to really build this type of infrastructure. But the only difference between you clicking the link, going to the university site and signing up for that $97 and you texting me, the difference is my team and I will be able to assess your situation to see where you are, and we can give you more professional insight and perspective on what the next best decision is that you need to make, especially if you already have a LLC or two and you want to make sure you're restructuring it, or maybe you just want to make sure you're doing it right. That's one of the reasons why we have the education in the Millionaire Blueprint, but we also provide the coaching in the Millionaire Mentorship Program. So you can either click the link, or my personal recommendation would be for you to just text the word millionaire, and then we'll reach back out to you and we'll find out from you what exactly are you intending to do. 678-276-8253. So it would be much easier for you to just text the word millionaire, because then you give us an opportunity to take a look at what exactly are you doing. Do you have a holding company? Do you have an LLC? Do you have an operating agreement? Do you have a business idea? Are you just getting started? Is this the 8th time you've done it? Are you restructuring or initially structuring? So we can assess it over the phone for just a 3 to 5 minute conversation, and then we can direct you to the program, and we can do all of that in-house. So if you text millionaire and we call you back right now and you let us know within 3 to 5 minutes, here is what I am doing, here is what I want to do, what is your best professional advice? This is a business consulting firm. This is a company that provides coaching and education, but we're professionals at what we do. We've done this long enough to know exactly what we're doing, and I haven't just done this type of work for the individual who's just trying to figure business out. My wife and I have done this for millionaires, for multimillionaires, many of whom knew nothing about these types of infrastructures, and we've got receipts to prove it, and we've got many testimonies even today of people who are successful, who are making money in their businesses, but just didn't know how to scale it to that next level because there were some structural and even systematic breakdowns that we introduced them to different information, and it set them on a different path. So I'm finished. This was an amazing lesson. I hope that you got some value from it. I would ask that you be so kind to put a takeaway in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube page. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram. My team and I, especially my son, he's my content creator. He's working so hard to get me to 10,000 subscribers. So we need your help on that. We have about 8,500. We want to get to 10,000 followers on YouTube. We probably have about 3,000. So your support, your follow, your subscription, it means a lot. And maybe you can go to Google and type in Ramonepreston and leave a review just on how much value we actually provide for free on social media. But if you want to speak to us, if you have a question, you just need a little more clarity, or you want to just take me up on that $97 a month offer, all you have to do is either click the link, but I recommend that you just text the word millionaire to 678-276-8253. This has been an amazing show. And of course, we'll be back here tomorrow, 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. Again, leave a comment, leave some feedback. Let me know what stood out the most, what your big takeaway was from today's show. And don't forget to tell Lolly Dolly everybody that the Ramonepreston Show is live every Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock noon, right here from our Buckhead headquarters, and we are doing everything we can do to help you take your business and your finances to the next level. So I love y'all, appreciate y'all. I'll see you tomorrow right here on the Ramonepreston